Okay, so carrying on from what we were doing last week on the basics of OnShape, you should now have an understanding of all the basic tools that you need to use to be able to make the component parts for our pinball. So we've got the bumper, the launcher, and the cups that we're going to go through. I'm going to take you through a quick tutorial on how to do the bumper here. So this is essentially what we want it to look like. This is the component part that we're going to put on there, obviously, to be able to put some elastic bands around it so that the ball can bounce up against it, hence the bumper name. And then we can obviously use that as one of our barriers inside there. Now, we've got a series of measurements that I've got here, and I'll attach to the Google Classroom that you can use as your reference point that we're going to do as we go along. But let's just go ahead and get started on this one. So I'll go here to create a new document like we did last time. I guess call it bumper. Like we did last time, we're going to end up with this point here. So I'm going to select one of our faces like we did last time, turn it to the top, just like we did with our cube. But this time, when I go into Sketch, I want to work with some very specific measurements. Now, if we check with our measurements over here, I know it's 26 millimeters wide and it's 6 millimeters thick. So back in here, I've got my top sketch plane 1 sorted there. I'm going to go back into what I did last time, center point rectangle. And just like last time, I'm just going to draw it out. I'm not too worried about the numbers here, because at this point here, remember, I'm not clicking. I'm just going to move my mouse down near it so I can type in at 26 millimeters. And then at this point here, I can type in, I believe, was it 6 millimeters? Let's double check that. Yes, 6 millimeters thick. Right, so I'll zoom in now. There's my rectangle that I want to start with. If I go back to a 3D view, do exactly like what we did last time. Now the thickness of the bottom of the base there was 3 millimeters on my drawing there. So like we did extrude, obviously 25 millimeters is going to be far too far. So 3 millimeters is what I need it to be. I don't need it to be symmetrical like we did last time. I can just leave it as it is because I'm going to build up on that. And I can press my tick bar there. Now, if we look on our bumpers, obviously we've got rounded edges there. We're going to have 2 cylinder columns come up on the sides there for us to be able to put the elastic bands around. So the first thing I want to do, like we did last time with the fillets and the edges, I'm just going to select these edges here, and I might need to zoom in a bit because it's quite small. There we go. I'm going to select that line there, and like we did last time, remember this fillet? 5 millimeters is going to be too far because I only want it to be 3 mil. There we go, and then I can select all the other edges that I want to round off, which is there and there. Now let's flip that around quickly so I can get to the other edge. Careful just to select the edges. Now, as you can see here, this is now the right shape I want it to be. I can press my tick, and let's go back to our top view, because now, if we look at our bumpers, we've got the base done there. Now we need the 2 columns coming up. Now these columns are coming up 15 millimeters, but I've already built a 3 millimeter base there. So I only need to raise it up, and I've got another 3 mil bit here actually as well. So 2 3s, I only need to come up 9 at this point here. So let's go back over here. This time we want to work on that face. So remember, we select the face that we're drawing on. I'm going to go back to Sketch. This time I want a circle. Now, a couple of different circles here. Probably a good one for me at this point is center point circle, possibly a 3-point circle. Let's try a 3-point circle and see what happens here. Because if I select that edge there and that edge there, and then maybe one more edge here, I can make sure that those 3 edges, that's perfectly lined up on the edge of where I need it to be. Now I can go back to my extrude here. Let's just go back to our 3D view to make sure it's extruding just the right part. It is, but that is far too far. We obviously don't need that. At this point, I could do one with a bar along the top. I might possibly want to not include that bar and just have 2 side bars coming up my elastic band. If the elastic band's a little bit too tight, though, it might end up snapping it. So I'm going to include that top bar. So I'm only going to go up 9 here. So I want to change that 25 mil to 9 mil. Click there, just make sure it looks right. That looks good to me. So once I'm happy with that, I can press tick. I can now go back to this surface area. Let's go back to the top view again, because I need one of those on the other side. So let's do exactly what we just did then. I've selected the face that I want to draw onto. It's highlighted yellow, orange, so I can see that that's right. Go back to my sketch plane. Let's go back to this, center point with 3 points. Center point with the circle. Let's try this one, see if I can do it both ways. So, oh, yep, good. I was hoping for that. So you can see that the computer program is recognizing that there's a bit of an arch there. So I actually want that center point there, which is good. And then the edge point, as long as I pick a point along this curve here that it recognizes, well, there we go. It's got exactly 6 mil diameter. So that's come out right. Right, good. So you can use either of those circles. I like the 3.1 a little bit more. It gave us a little bit more accuracy when we were doing it. It looks like they'll both work though. Let's go back to our extrude button, just like we did last week. Let's go back to our 3D view. Let's zoom in on that. As you can see, just like last time, it's far too long. So let's take that back to 9 mil. And there we are. Right, so these are just using all the same steps that we did with our cube last time. We're drawing shapes, we're extruding them out. We don't need to cut away on this particular one. We're going to do that on later ones when we do the cups and the launchers. This one is almost a simpler form. It's just doing those edges. Now I could possibly leave it at that if I wanted to print it out like that without the top bar. As I said before, if we put elastic bands around that and they're quite tight for my bouncer, it could then snap that base there. So just like we did in this one here, it's probably better to have one at the top there. So we've got the elastic band and that gap in the middle to allow it to get a nice kind of bounce on there. So I'm going to do the top view again. This time I want to draw along that top edge there. So I'm going to select one and hold down shift and select the other. So it knows that I'm working on that surface area there. Now I want to go to sketch. Yeah, this should work. Let's see if this will work. I'm pretty sure it will. To a center point. The same point here. I could draw it out wherever because I'm going to write in 26 now and then 6 there. And if I've done that correctly, yeah, there we go. Can you see? Because I selected those surface areas, it knows I want to draw on top here. Now, like I did, exactly like I did on the base there, all I'm going to do here is extrude again. It's going to go up. Obviously not that high. We want it to be 3 mil. That's much better. And the final thing we can do, obviously that doesn't quite look right, that's a little bit too blocky, is we need to flip off those edges there. So let's do, oh, I made a mistake there. See, remember I need to select my surface areas first. I need to select those lines. Yeah, I need to make sure I only select the lines. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Here we go. See, sometimes it's selecting parts there. I need to make sure that the line is highlighted exactly where I want it to go. And then I can click that. Yeah, good. It remembers from last time, 3 mil. I'm going to select that edge over there as well. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because I want to be able to, oh, I want to be able to get around the other side. Now remember, if I want to flip the box around, I can touch any of these corners and it does that, just like we did last time. Select that edge there. And finally select this edge here. Now, if I've done all that correctly, which I'm pretty sure I have, we'll now see I have bumpers there all made. Let's rotate that around a little bit, shall we? Brilliant. So I've got my 2 bars coming up. The one's going across that will hold it in place. I'll then wrap my elastic bands around that. And that's the bumpers all made, just like that. There we go. That's the first step and the first component part you need to make.